All right, everybody, do we have audio now? It's just hit us with a thumbs up down below if we got audio. Looks like we should be good. Okay, we're good. So, hey, everybody, welcome back into live stream number 2, the NFL Draft Weekend 2024 edition. I apologize about that. Sean had something pressed on the audio. So once again, our 2024 Rookie NFL Draft Guide is available for pre-order. Link is in the description. Be answering all your questions today. Super chats do get priority. They are guaranteed to be answered. All info is in the description. Make sure you hit subscribe. Glad I'm wearing this Dynasty Rewind hoodie today. Chile, Connecticut. Link is down below. But today I'm joined, as always, by my faithful co-host, Nate Christian. We got Bob Van Duzer. We got Zack Duarte in the house. Gentlemen, it's been fun so far. The draft these last 2 days, it's been a little perplexing at some points. I think we could all agree on that, right?
Yeah. Through 2 days of the draft, we have 29 players that are fantasy relevant that have been drafted. And considering that we had 14 in the first round and then only 15 in the next 2 rounds, it's definitely perplexing, Mike.
Yeah. I would say this draft has left us with a lot of questions so far. And if you have more questions than just the comment section here, check out patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind to get into that Discord server for a free 7-day trial. But definitely an interesting day 2. Running backs and tight ends definitely left to the wayside in this one. So that'll be fun to discuss today, and a little bit more to look forward to in day 3. Yeah, Zach, what are your thoughts so far?
Well, I mean, just kind of piggybacking off day 1, where we had some unfavorable landing spots. There were some good ones in day 2, and there were some questionable ones again in day 2. You know, and it goes to show you, and this is why I appreciated the last mock draft that we did with landing spots, where these landing spots are never going to be pretty. Yeah. You're going to have a lot of icky, timeshare backfields. You're going to have competitions at the wide receiver position. You're going to have quarterbacks sitting. You're going to have tight ends drafted that are not going to be fantasy relevant. These things are going to happen. They're unpredictable. And that's why we practice so many mock drafts before the draft, because of situations like these where, maybe we'll talk about somebody later today. Jalen Polk is maybe going to be drafted a little bit higher than we expected. Although Bob says where he should have been drafted all along. So some of these landing spots, very murky, but you have to expect this every year when it comes to the NFL draft.
And I've said time and time again, I'll say it again. We always try to impose how we feel on the NFL. We have to adjust and adapt what we do in fantasy because the NFL is telling us how to value these players. We say we don't know how to value players. The draft tells us, here's how you value them. We're taking this guy here in this round at this spot. They're laying out the blueprint for what we do. Let's go Disco Stew. Is that a Simpsons reference, by the way? Disco Stew doesn't advertise. Love the Simpsons back in the day. So today, forgive me, we're doing a mock draft.
Yeah, kind of going to go through the first 2 rounds of our rookie draft so far, kind of look at what we have left after the first 3 rounds of the draft. And we're going to have some good players, I'm sure, still drafted in day 3, but we have a lot of the players we've been talking about on this channel have found landing spots, have found their way to a situation. So, we're going to find a natural way to talk about them as we kind of go through the first 24 picks in most of our rookie drafts at this point.
Perfect. We're just keeping track of that on a sheet.
Yeah, Bob's got it over here.
Bob's got it written down.
Mike, you get the 101.
I get the 101. All right. Well, then I'm just going to go ahead and go Caleb Williams.
All right.
I don't want to say chalk. I don't want to say it's the easy pick, but we are talking about a guy who, we were talking about it last night off script because he kind of had to. So these are things he's going to have DeAndre Swift. He's going to have DJ Moore, Rome Odunze to throw to, Cole Kmet. So I don't think he's going to have to do as much off the script stuff. He's going to have rookie camp. He's going to have whole off season. He's a starter from day 1, right? They're not going to, sometimes these guys get drafted highly. They still throw the veteran in there for a little bit. There's no reason to have him not be in there.
Who do they even have backing up Caleb Williams right now?
Tyson Bagent.
There we go.
Watch out.
Well, I technically, I mean, he has some starting experience, but yeah, I'm just going to go Caleb Williams at the 1-1.
That sounds good. At the 102, it's the easy pick again. I'm taking Marvin Harrison Jr. going to the Cardinals. We talked about it yesterday. The big 3 didn't necessarily all get great landing spots, but Marvin Harrison Jr. definitely did. Going to the Cardinals, being the wide receiver 1 for Kyler Murray and the foreseeable future. Love this. Think it's a very easy pick. The first 2 picks are extremely easy in this draft, which means the board starts to open up. Is it a little flat for you here at the 103, Bob?
Yes, it's definitely interesting. I'm going to stick with quarterback here, and I'm going to go with JJ McCarthy.
Oh,
And
ADP rising.
and it's purely a matter of, hey, this guy is good, did enough in college. We went over it, hashed out a ton yesterday. You can't take away from a guy that did exactly what he was asked to do and did what he was asked to do really well. It's not like he struggled out there. It's not like he was a terrible player, extremely successful on third down. Goes to an incredible situation. The Vikings landing spot for quarterback was, in my opinion, the best quarterback landing spot in the draft. Has weapons, has coaching. He's built to succeed. Minnesota has done a good job with a little bit of pieces in this draft, adding pieces to help that team all together. I really like this spot. I think, while there will be certainly rookie hiccups along the way, as there always are, acclimated to the NFL, I think it is an awesome transition for the team. JJ, your fantasy team at 103, it might be a little spicy for the top of it, but I'm happy with it here.
Bob, is there any rookie quarterback aside from him set up to have more success right away?
No.
I was going to,
like I said,
the weapons that are there.
It's easily the weapons. While Hawkinson, we're going to have to kind of wait to see how he comes back. When he comes back, we're definitely expecting him to miss some time. But yeah, one of the best wide receivers in the league, arguably the best. You have another great number 2, a great running back in Aaron Jones when healthy. Maybe they add some help to when he inevitably misses time. Unfortunately, it's been something that he does in his career, especially the last couple seasons. But when he's on the field, he's electric. He's a great support system. He has a great support system around him, and that's what makes this pick for me. Learn our lessons from last year with Bryce Young, who, while and some of these other guys in this draft that didn't have as favorable landing spots, who might be valued now, might see a dip over time. I think JJ is going to rise and rise, and if you're able to pick him up late, I don't think he's going to go out a lot of drafts in 103. Honestly, no. I think more often than not, Zack, you had a draft where I think he fell to the 108, and I don't know why we're doing it to ourselves at this point, but taking the 104 to you, Zack. Board's opened up. What do you got?
I'm going to talk about this person in the third person because that's how they talk about themselves. Malik Neighbors will be going at 104 because Malik Neighbors doesn't care about bad quarterback play, and Malik Neighbors will succeed with or without good quarterback play, as he said in his press conference. All joking aside, by the way, that's a reference to his opening press conference with the New York Giants. I'm taking Malik Neighbors here. I'm not overthinking this pick, right? I'm just going to take the best player available, which is wholeheartedly, and you can make it a debate for Rome Odunze, no problem with that. But I'm not selecting a quarterback here. I'm taking the best talent available. Will there be some struggling weeks potentially with Malik Neighbors as a rookie? But there is a situation where the Giants address quarterback in the future. Who knows? Daniel Jones is not tethered there for more than a single season, so we'll see how this year goes. And again, you have to, as we discussed yesterday, temper expectations with some of these picks because while Malik Neighbors is a great player, he may not have a great rookie season. He may not be a top 15 rookie, maybe top 20, maybe, wide receiver 2. But that doesn't detract from the fact that he's very talented and he has all the possibility to have a very high ceiling as a fantasy football player. So I'll take Malik Neighbors at the 104 and be very happy about it.
If that's the case, if Malik Neighbors has a poor rookie season, then Rewind CEO is going to buy him everywhere next year. I can tell you that. At a discount. So we're going to go to the 105 now. I'm going to take Rome Odunze. I guess I'm going to kind of buy in here to the Chicago Bears offense a little bit. I understand that I just asked Bob if JJ McCarthy has the better chance to succeed as a rookie quarterback, but Rome Odunze, Nate, he's a big fan, kind of selling me on Rome Odunze a little bit over here,
Yeah,
just
hard.
That green route tree that we were talking
Green
about.
route tree, love it.
At the catch point. I think City of Chicago is going to like a wide receiver like Rome Odunze, pairing him with DJ Moore, Cole Kmet. Got a nice little receiving core out there all of a sudden. So, Nate, let's kick it to you for the 106.
Yeah, the 106, my top 5 players are off the board, which means I have a new tier here, and I could go 2 different ways at quarterback. I could honestly sell myself either way, but I have to go with my gut, and that's Drake May. That's the player I like a bit more in a vacuum over Jaden Daniels, though I think the Commanders have done a good job of surrounding Daniels with talent. I mean, they already got Jahan Dotson, McLaurin there. They did go and get Ben Sinnott, who we're going to be talking about later. But I like Drake May and his potential a bit more. I like what he's put on tape. So he's going to the Patriots, who also have done started to do a good job, hopefully, of surrounding him with talent. I like their pickup in the second round. We'll talk about Polk later. But Drake May, Jaden Daniels, I could really go either way here. I'm going to go with my guy, Drake May.
Love it.
Certainly got sniped there. That is a tier break for me. But at the top of this next year, I got Jaden Daniels. And while I'm far less excited to make this pick, because while he goes to another spot with pretty much immediate roster opening, he's going to start day one, as far as we can tell as of now. Doesn't have the same complement of weapons that JJ does, but the weapons are nothing to scoff at. Terry McLaurin, great. Jahan Dotson, we like. Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler out of the backfield. He has a good enough support system. Cliff Kingsbury, a little sus, but
Ben Sinnott.
I'm getting there, Zach.
He did mention Ben Sinnott.
My boy, Ben Sinnott, goes day 2, round 2, and the vindication that just overwhelmed me in that moment when he was drafted goes to an awesome spot where he gets to start day 1 as well. I'm pumped about that spot. I'm hopeful to get him later, but overall, at the end of the day, Jaden Daniels to me is a boomer bust prospect, and that is rolled in with the 5th year breakout. Yes, he had collegiate production all the way across, his entire collegiate career, but really didn't have that great year until the final season. And then, that rushing ability that we talk about. Yes, it's great. I don't love knocking a player on their rushing ability because they can't protect themselves. But at the end of the day, if you're going to take shots, you're going to miss time. That could stunt your development. Could be good for you. And we feel like Anthony Richardson taking a redshirt year 1 might actually be better for him because he's somebody who hasn't taken the reps that Jaden Daniels has. But Jaden Daniels still needs to acclimate that little bit, I think, and especially learn how to protect himself. But like I said, a little less excited with this pick, having to take him here, but hey, I'll take the value. I'll take a starting quarterback at 107 with the upside that Jaden Daniels certainly has.
Yeah, I think this is where you start to shock people a little bit, right?
Boards opened up
because we've had this 1 through 7, 1 through 8 prototype in all of our mock drafts for the most part, and the NFL draft changes that. And so at 108, I'm not going to select Brock Bowers. I'm going to select Bo Nix. Top 12 draft capital with what is perceived to be a good coach for a quarterback. Maybe not the most sexy weapons there right now, but who knows? Maybe that will be in a year or so from now. Still Cortland Sutton there. Our boy Greg Dulcich with his hamstrings. Javonte Williams. Marvin Mims, or lack thereof of his hamstrings. Yes. So I have to take the value in the Superflex League of a quarterback who got top 12 draft capital over a player who I think Brock Bowers is probably a little bit more talented than Bo Nix, right? I would say that. But the landing spot dictates a lot here. So the positional value of quarterback here, to me, makes this Bo Nix over Brock Bowers for me.
Okay. Great. And we're going to finish out the first round. Then we're going to take some questions. Don't forget super chats, get all priority. But moving on, the 109, I'm going to go ahead and take Brock Bowers. And how the mighty have fallen a little bit here. Yes, Zach, you alluded to earlier, and you made a great point. Not all of these landing spots are great. Michael Mayer going into his 3rd season, I believe, right? At this point?
No, second season.
Second season, forgive me. But still, we don't know what's going to happen there. There's a new regime. Maybe they move on from Michael Mayer. We've seen these things happen before. Maybe Brock Bowers is the slot wide receiver for the Raiders.
That's what it looks like.
I think Michael Mayer plays the traditional inline tight end. Then you see Brock Bowers split out a lot. You can set up on both sides of the line, play in line, whatever. But I think Brock Bowers is your big slot there. I think that's the best way to use him as a vertical threat. Don't get too cute.
And someone said yesterday, if you guys remember, so we're not drafting, we don't like the landing spot. He's not a generational talent anymore. No, we can not like the landing spot. He can still be a generational talent. Both of those things can be true, but I'll take the value at the 109 for sure. I have no problem with that. Nate, the 110, did I snipe you?
No, I mean, I wanted Brock Bowers if he was still on the board, but I didn't expect him to at this point. So I'm at the 110. I'm into a new tier and got to do it. Got to do it. Got to do it. It's Ladd McConkey time.
There we go. J. Lau, that answered your question.
Ladd
We're drafting
McConkey,
everyone's favorite wide receiver now.
At the 110.
110.
Justin Herbert's wide receiver 1. It's going to be a target vacuum because the Chargers are going to run the ball and then throw the ball to one wide receiver, and that wide receiver is going to be McConkey. Maybe not the most talented wide receiver left on the board. Xavier Worthy's there, Brian Thomas Jr.'s there. They're both very good as well. But I think when it comes to actual production for fantasy football, McConkey is going to be such a safe prospect for that volume and to be able to be productive with that volume. He still has the same upside, I think, as Worthy and Thomas Jr. because of the quarterback he's linked to, because of the lack of competition that's there in LA with the Chargers. So I got to do it to him. I got to pick up McConkey at the 110. This is probably the highest you'll see him go in rookie drafts. But when you have a guy like me who loves McConkey and he's fallen into really the best possible landing spot for him, it really couldn't get much better than this. He basically has as close to first round draft capital you can get going at the pick 34 overall. So I'm ecstatic to pick up Lad McConkey here. I'll probably get to pick him up later in most of my rookie drafts, but here I'll take him with the 110.
All right, hey, you know what? You're really planting your flag, and I respect that.
My
and
guy.
Also, I fully respect the fact that you're saying he's Justin Herbert's wide receiver 1. I can't disagree with that. He actually catches the ball when it is thrown to him. So
it's open too.
Bob, let's move on to you. The 111, were you sniped? Are you good?
I wouldn't say I was sniped. I'm still well within my tier here.
Okay.
And there's questions. I actually got a guy from the tier above yet still kicking around. But I like the pick. Lad McConkey, big fan. The McConkey talk is alive and well with that landing spot, the draft capital, all about it. And the immediate opportunity, as you touched on too. I'm a big fan. So I don't hate the pick one bit. If you would have drafted my guy, I probably would have been looking at Lad McConkey. But the 111, I'm going to take Brian Thomas Jr. off the board. Jacksonville's probably heir apparent at wide receiver 1. There's plenty of wide receiver talent there already. Gabe Davis isn't their wide receiver 1, but I'm saying he's there.
Yeah.
You got Christian Kirk there, who's probably going to soak up a ton of targets. You got Evan Ingram there, who's going to soak up more targets than people realize and probably continue to be even more of a value at the tight end position now with Brian Thomas coming to town. But good enough player. Trevor Lawrence is wide receiver 1. Yes, I have some questions about, not much production up until year 3. Always a concern for me with any player, but with the landing spot, the draft capital, overall his talent, I'm pretty in on him at the 111, especially.
Yeah,
I'll take some value off the board here.
Zach, before we get to you, somebody's making a comment that they got JJ McCarthy at the 110 yesterday.
That's incredible value.
I've seen it vary. I'm in 2 actually rookie drafts that are happening now. It's been varying. I saw Drake May at 109 yesterday. There's a lot of sway in leagues right now.
Even so, before he was drafted, JJ McCarthy, I did not see him going past the 108, I believe.
Right. Well, then that's just a league where people just don't believe, right? That's
you get the good value
there could be is it a standard scoring? Is PPR? Is it are there other things that are swaying the picks there? That's something that could be happening.
It's interesting to bring that up because going back to the 2021 draft class with Trevor Lawrence and all those quarterbacks, we basically saw all 5 of those quarterbacks go in the first 6 or 7 picks. Dynasty drafts went quarterback. The value at quarterback was just so high compared to every other position that the quarterbacks filled the first half of the first round. And I think because of how that quarterback class has played out, we're not as confident to pick all those guys so early now because we know that not every single one of these quarterbacks is going to hit. There's going to be development time. Like we talked about yesterday, going back to that class, 4 of those 5 guys are not even on the same team that drafted them, and their rookie contracts are not up yet. I don't predict that this class is going to quite fall out that bad. I think there's definitely some COVID stuff that probably played into that class. But it's very interesting to see. I think a lot of people got burned on that class, and now because of that, we're seeing these quarterbacks drop to the late first. And, you're probably going to see Bo Nix fall into the second as well.
Yeah, I think that plays a role. And I think how we've seen the quarterback position the last couple of years where big name quarterbacks are missing time. Kirk Cousins missed the better part of last year. Aaron Rodgers, while on the twilight of his career, missed some time, significant time, most of the season, 99% of it, in fact. I'm sorry. Justin Herbert went down. We saw Joe Burrow miss significant time. And it's about the concept of investing so much into a high-end quarterback that, yes, when they play a full set of games, is going to give you a bunch of points. But the replacement value of, a Jared Goff that we all are a big fan of here, that you can get something significant on top of, add on to your team, and Jared Goff could definitely miss time as well, but at least you have that additional padded asset.
Fire a pendant hooker.
I wouldn't go that far, but, you have that additional asset. So I think that plays a role. I think what you brought up plays a role. The fact that, we've seen, that materialize to such an effect. Like, wow, these guys haven't even cleared their rookie contract and they're out of town, So yeah, that's definitely,
it's not as long as it used to be.
Yeah, there's definitely and we've seen over the years too that, receivers tend to be more reliable in the first round than quarterbacks.
Yep.
And I think that that's soaking in for players, especially guys, elite players, elite talents like Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze. Those guys especially, I don't hate picking over that next grouping of quarterbacks by any stretch of the imagination. So I think that's all playing a role here.
Mm-hmm.
All that being said, Zach, it's your pick of the 112 round at the first.
Finish it out for us, Zach.
It's amazing how much value is here at the end of the first round now, right? Whereas before we're like, oh yeah, you want to be in the first 7 to 8 picks.
Lovely first round.
I want to be at the end of the first round.
The big tier is the 12 picks. The first 12 picks.
I want to be. I think there's even more with Lad McConkey and this person that I'm going to select now.
Ooh.
There's still some value on the board at wide receiver, but I think that there's a lot of value on the board at wide receiver.
Adonai Mitchell coming in.
And so I'm going to take the first running back off the board here. I'm going to take Jonathan Brooks.
There you go.
At 112. And I have a really good reason why. Let's look at Dave Canales' running backs the last 2 years where he's been. Rashad White, top 5 fantasy running back last year.
He was number 3, was he not?
Running back 3.
Okay.
And then Ken Walker in his rookie season, even coming off an injury, still a top 20 running back.
Yeah.
So I want some of that. And I think Jonathan Brooks is gonna have a Ken Walker type of rookie season, and then even better after that. He is still rehabbing from the ACL injury. There is still Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard there. Probably take away a little bit of work.
Yeah, at this point, we're more Chuba Hubbard than Miles Sanders, the corpse of Miles Sanders, we should say.
Right. So, but there's still bodies there, right? And so I think that you won't see the ceiling for Jonathan Brooks in the first season, and I'm okay with that. And I love that Xavier Worthy and Keon Coleman are still here, but there's a lot of wide receivers that I can take in the second round with my 3 picks that I'm very happy to soak up there. So I'm going to take the top running back in the draft here at the end of the first round.
I like it.
And I think that kind of answers Devin's question. He had asked, is the Panthers landing spot gross enough to keep Brooks in the top second round of rookie picks? I still want this man. I don't.
I think for us, no, but I think for majority, I want to say yes, but the fact that we only saw 4 running backs go off the board yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the kicker.
Brooks was the only second round pick at the running back position. And
here's the thing. Brooks is a borderline first round pick in the NFL draft, if not for this ACL injury.
Well,
for sure.
So soak that up. I mean, you getting him at the end of the first round or 201 or 202 is tremendous value for where he would have been drafted without the ACL injury. So Bob knows this with all the videos we do. I'm all about soaking up the injury dip. And I'm doing that here as well because, again, he would be a real-life NFL first-round pick, maybe top 35 or 40 pick otherwise without that ACL injury. So I'm going to take the first running back off the board and probably easily the most talented running back in this draft class there.
Yeah, I think with positional value and the long-term outlook with Jonathan Brooks, I think you could argue that you can take him at like the 108, honestly. If you really want a running back, I don't see why not. I don't think that's a bad pick.
Yeah.
So.
Let's take one more. John, can you bring up Joe's question here about Blake Corum? How much do we think Corum truly affects Kyron's workload?
More than I want to.
Joe's saying, and yes, I'm trying to spark a 2-versus-2 conversation. Thanks, Joe.
Well, at least you know the show. Appreciate that, Joe.
So, what is this? The anti-Blake Corum side? Is that the pro? Like, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, we're split right down the middle, right here.
I mean, in a fight, I like our odds. But at the end of the day, being the realist that I am, I can 100% see that Blake Corum. I love Blake Corum. I was really hoping he was going to go to a different LA team and ruin that backfield.
It was set up perfectly.
But instead, the Rams, had to go.
Our gets one of his guys, linebacker instead of running back.
Yeah. Well, and that
they weren't wrong.
That's on us too. That's on us. That's not. He wasn't trying to tease Blake Corum there. It was just
that's true.
That's who we wanted at that pick. So that's on us more than it's on him, in my opinion. Maybe that was intent. I don't know. Either way, but I think Blake Corum, good enough player where he is going to cut into workload, and then you get into conversation on contracts. Blake Corum's extends past Kyron Williams as well, which I don't think is terrible for Kyron long term. He's going into a free agent class that's might be pretty packed, might not be. In 2026 or whenever his contract runs out. I did we did a video on it talking about how that plays out. But either way, I think we're looking at, probably close to a 60-40 split. But at the end of the day, too, I wanted somebody to go and be able to spell Kyren. I'm fine with getting a 60-40 split out of this backfield. And I think that's what you can expect. At least year one, maybe it switches to more 50-50, but I don't think Blake Corum is immediately going to come in and just demand all of the work. And,
True.
There could be a gradual turn. We did the same thing last year, Nate, with a player you liked in Tank Bigsby. And
yeah, because Travis Etienne had day 3 draft capital. I forgot.
That's fair enough. But
That's
still,
fine.
at the end of the day, even worse than that you suggested the concept.
I'm sorry, Dougie P got his guy.
Oh, God.
We are reliving the 2023 NFL draft all over again.
Either
I'm
way,
in PTSD right now.
Yeah, either way, obviously rough, not an ideal landing spot, but that's not to say that this backfield can't be beneficial to both running backs. And obviously, taking work away from one isn't good. This is definitely going to limit Kyren's upside. Nate, I think you made a good point in all of this is, hey, it's okay that you hit on this guy and that you had him on your roster, whatever.
Good job.
But once that hit happens, it is time to maybe start looking a little sooner rather than later. Admittedly, the Rams had a weird draft, and I didn't like this pick either. But, this is what happens when the Rams actually have draft capital to play with early. But
It's weird, isn't it? Seeing them have draft capital.
Look, this is what I said was going to happen, and it's not because I make the rules or I'm right or anything like that. It's just at the end of the day, day 3 running backs only have so much investment. And it's not that Kyren Williams isn't good. It's not that I don't like Kyren Williams. It's that he's a day 3 running back, and we've seen this before. I mean, I think Kyren Williams is better than Dameon Pierce, but we've seen what happens there as well. Not only do they go and get Devin Singletary, but then a year later they go and get Joe Mixon. Kyren Williams now has Blake Corum, a day 2 running back coming in here. If you hit on a day 3 running back, there's going to be guys drafted today that you will hit on, and you're going to be hype about it. We're all going to be excited about it. Hey, look, Braylon Allen's doing well, or hey, look, Jalen Wright's doing well, or Cody Schrader even, who knows? But when those players do well, and they're being valued at top 5, top 10 running back status in Dynasty, you make a pivot. If you didn't move Kyren Williams for Travis Etienne or Jonathan Taylor this offseason, you made a mistake. You were too emotionally invested in a day 3 running back. And the NFL is not invested at all in day 3 running backs. And they tell us that time and time and time and time again. Yet we think that we're smarter than the NFL because we see a guy has talent. The NFL doesn't care if the guy has talent. They care about draft capital. They care about their investment. They care about things that we don't care about. And at the end of the day, if you hit one of those day 3 running backs, you pat yourself in the back and make a lateral move, take advantage of their new value, and keep trucking.
We did have a super chat come in. This is from Waffle Hauser. I made it here for the analysis. R.I.P. Tank Bigsby.
Hey,
Shots fired. Love you.
the
Waffle.
Jaguars haven't drafted a running back yet, so I don't think Tank's dead yet.
Zach, before we move on, do you have anything to add to the Blake Corum?
Yeah, I
conversation?
just wholeheartedly disagree with Nate. I mean, at every step of this term.
It's not disagreeing with me. It's disagreeing with the NFL, though.
But I disagree with your analysis of it. Whereas, I still think Kyren can be as productive as a top 10 running back.
He's not going to be a top 10 running back. I mean, top 24, sure.
I think.
Are we taking a bet here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can take a
let's do
bet.
it.
Okay.
Kyren Williams is not going to be a top 10 running back.
And you think he is?
I do.
What is
Yeah.
the bet?
I don't know. You tell me, Nate.
Bob, mediate this. What's the bet going to be? Shot bet?
I don't know. We'll discuss later. Yeah.
All right.
I'm not impartial.
Sean, put it on the board.
Put it on the
One
board.
shot. How do you do the thing with your hand that you do?
Put it on the board.
There we go, Sean. Do we have a board for that anymore? No, I'm sorry. Zach, anyway, please continue.
I just think that Blake Corum is going to come in and be the RB1 of this offense or take away a huge chunk of a very productive running back in this offense last year.
Blake,
Not only
Why would they draft
on the
him
ground, but
day 2
also in catching passes as well. Kyren Williams averaged over 5 yards per carry last year and was that offense. You look at their games and their splits, games without Kyren Williams, they were not very good. Games with Kyren Williams, they were very good. And that's what I go off of is how did this team revolve their offense around this player? Now, look, I absolutely think that Blake Corum is coming in to be a part of this offense. 25 to 33% of the workload that Kyren Williams got. And you know what? That's a good thing because Kyren Williams got too much work last year. They depended too much on Kyren Williams last year, and it's led to this thing where he does have an injury history or a label. And you the hope here is, hey, we bring somebody in, we take away some work, and Kyren is a little bit healthier throughout the duration of the season. So I actually think that Blake Corum is almost exactly what Kyren Williams does. And Sean McVay said it himself. They have a lot of similar traits in talking about Blake Corum in his press conference after the draft. I think they brought Blake Corum in to be an extension of Kyren Williams, not to be a subtraction to Kyren Williams. So I just disagree with this. Like, there are some day 3 running backs that hit and that stick around in the NFL. It happens. And
Name him.
Austin Eckler?
Not day 3.
Okay, but day 3 are undrafted free agents. Same thing. They're not different. They're not different. They're the same thing.
Carson.
Well, actually, they are different. UDFAs can choose where they go. Day 3 running backs can't. So there's a little bit more flexibility there. You know, you're set in at your price point as a day 3.
The point is the same. They have no value to the team. The point is the exact same. The team can just let's give this guy the bulk of the work for 4 years, and then we'll get rid of him.
That's happening with all round picks now, by the way.
Teams don't do that with every single day 3 running back. A majority of them, absolutely. We can't sit here and say that one guy cannot be an outlier. There are outliers at every single position, and we are very reticent to that. We were very reticent to Amon-Ra St. Brown. We were very reticent to Puka Nacua last year, to Brock Purdy. There are always outliers, and we are so, as a community, against that. And so I'm just like, hey, listen, I still believe in this guy, and I think that he still has the opportunity to be the same player he was last year, just with a lesser workload, which I'm fine with.
I think there's some hoops you're jumping through, but also at the same time, I think at the end of the day, there's no reason to rely on outliers. You can get them, you can do well with them, but not what I'm betting on.
We're going to take one more. Sean, do you have the one that I said? Because I don't know how to scroll up on Nate's computer. This is Yoda, a.k.a. Caleb, who's one of our Discord moderators. Thoughts on the Troy Franklin slide? Luke McCaffrey, Roman Wilson, Jalen McMillan, Malachi Corley, and Jermaine Burton going before him. R.I.P. Troy Franklin. I was quite vocal about how much I loved him. And now I have to change my tune because the NFL is saying not so fast, Mike. But Bob, what are your thoughts here?
I think here there's some economy that comes into play with this, of the wide receiver position as a whole throughout this draft, because with so much talent ahead of him, it just takes one team to like somebody else that much more, and then one more slot is filled, and then less and less teams are looking at wide receiver. But at the end of the day, all of these teams had other wide receivers they preferred over Troy Franklin at some point or another. You know, and maybe one of those teams that drafted Ladd McConkey, maybe Troy Franklin was the next wideout on their board, but well, now they're full. And then it's just that same concept over and over and over again, you know, but at some point the buck stops, and it stops at Troy Franklin sliding into day 3. But there's got to be some red flag that we maybe don't know about, because while I know he's not a perfect prospect, he has that slender build, that slender frame, awkward combine testing. There's something here that, you know, I can absolutely 100% acknowledge that he was not a perfect prospect, but this is a pretty egregious slide at the end of the day with this one. So, but yeah, he's dead.
All right. So RIP Troy Franklin. Our thoughts and prayers are with you from the Dynasty Rewind. Let's move on to round 2. Don't forget, we will stop after every round and we will take some questions. Unless we get super chats rolling in, then we will stop, answer your question immediately. But I guess it's back to me. Is it not at the 201?
Yep, it's you.
So I'm actually kind of struggling with this pick a little bit, because I feel like, well, I should take this guy because of his draft capital. I should take that guy because of his draft capital. But do I want to take players that I don't like as much or I don't believe in as much? I'm going to go ahead, and I'm probably going to make Bob very angry, but I'm going to take Jalen Polk here at the 201.
Hey, we get to the Polk conversation nice and early.
I love this.
Some of the best hands in the class.
The best.
We've been talking about him for a while. Zach, I know you consume a lot of other content. You love to see what else is out there. Has anyone been talking about Jalen Polk as much as us? No. Patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. So you could say to all your league mates, I told you so. These guys know what they're talking about. I love Jalen Polk. Are the Patriots a great fit? You know, everyone's down on the Patriots this offseason. David, thank you for the super chat. We really appreciate you tuning in. But I like what the Patriots are building up there. Well, I guess up here I'm in New England right now. Drake May, you got Jalen Polk. This is going to be good, and I do think that Jalen Polk has a possibly faster path to getting the bulk of the workload than some of these other guys that were drafted ahead of him. So the 2-1, I'm going ahead. I'm taking Jalen Polk. What's up, Bob?
The only knock I have to that is the quality of work that he's going to be getting in that higher tier role.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have gone Polk here, but that's okay. I'm not going to say who I would have gone because I think Nate's going to draft him, but otherwise I will. But either way, love Polk, love his talent, and this is a guy who, not only benefits from going to a quarterback cemented situation because now he has Drake May. Patriots landing spot for wide receiver was really shaky until they fixed that glaring hole at quarterback.
You mean you don't like Tyquan Thornton or
no? I don't. But
Mario,
Demario Douglas we still like, but this also is very beneficial to Drake May because now he has what in my opinion is a cemented number one weapon. Not that he's going to be the number one weapon forever on this team. I think he profiles a little more as a 2, but right now, something to help Drake May develop is not a bad thing. And I think being in an opportune situation, getting to kind of rapid fire his development and not have to sit behind so-and-so forever. I really like this spot for Polk. I'm a fan. Love the player. There was plenty of hype getting, at the very end of, mock draft season for NFL mocks, him creeping into the late first, early second of mocks. And, honestly, ever since I checked the film on Polk way back when, I've been a fan and happy to see some respect on the name at this point.
Yeah, and as much as I love Jacoby Myers, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that Jalen Polk is like the best wide receiver the Patriots have had like in the past 5 years.
It's not a stretch.
So
I would agree with that. Yeah. I mean, obviously he has yet to do it, but as a prospect, we can
as talent,
Right.
probably the most talented wide receiver they've had there in the last 5 years.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move on to we got another super chat coming in. This is from Waffle Hauser again. Hey, Waffle Hauser, you know what? You can also say how much you love the Discord because you are a very active part of that community. But he's saying, I love Polk. High-end wide receiver 2 upside. He has tread on the tires, Nate, and that is a good thing. Also from Mike, hungry boats eat more water or whatever that actual quote is. I have no clue. What is it again?
It's a rising tide lifts all ships.
Even worse. So let's move on. Waffle Hauser, thank you very much. You are the man. We appreciate you.
We did get another super chat from David Shanahan. No message on it, so we appreciate the love.
Yeah,
and the
I did.
support.
I shouted him out.
I wasn't sure. I just want to make sure, because we got to buy cups of coffee after this, so we want to make sure.
I'm actually out of coffee. And
Yeah,
I'm waiting on Sean's
Sean
in-laws
told
to
us
bring me
that
more coffee.
There's coffee coming yet. That doesn't look like
Apparently, New England coffee is very expensive. So, who knew?
Apparently, they're growing the beans themselves and then bringing it over. Also, David Shanahan, are you related to Kyle and Mike Shanahan? So,
If so, say hi.
We got our man Patrick just chiming in with $20. Patrick,
That's the price of one cup of coffee. Thank you, Patrick.
in New
We really
England.
appreciate it.
Exactly.
Are you related to Marvin Harrison, by the way?
I don't think so, actually. But and you know what? Mile High Luke Polk wasn't even the second best receiver on his team. That's because Roma Dunze was a top end wide receiver.
No, he was the second best wide receiver on his team.
So he's saying that
No.
Jalen McMillan
No.
was the second best
No,
wide
no,
receiver?
no.
I'm sorry.
No.
I can't get on board with that one, Mile High Luke.
Sorry.
I mean,
Mile high indeed.
Oh, that was sharp.
zinger from Zack. So, all right, let's move on. Let's go to the 2-2. Nate,
Okay.
what are you thinking here at the 202?
202. I'm going to take the guy that Bob knew I was going to draft. You can't at this point leave Xavier Worthy on the board. Can't leave him on the board.
Is that your pick?
Yeah.
He's
okay.
Patrick Mahomes' wide receiver 1 at the moment because we're expecting a suspension for Rashee Rice. And hey, as much as I have been into Rashee Rice, as soon as you start missing games and let someone else have the chance to take that not starting spot, but the wide receiver 1 spot for the Chiefs. I mean, Xavier Worthy has all the talent in the world. Probably the most, once again, probably one of the most talented wide receivers they've had in a couple of years. Still has to put it together, but he has been productive for 3 years. He steps into a wide open opportunity. He is the kind of wide receiver that they like there. Can get open, can make things happen after the catch. They love those kind of players, and Worthy fits that role so well. I have some question marks about if he can really step into a role that's going to have like top 12 upside, just because I don't know if he can handle like 120, 140 targets like we see some of these target hogs handle. But his efficiency on just say 100 targets could be enough to make him, have that top 15 season upside. I could see him finishing as a wide receiver 1 if he really starts to gel in that offense. And with that kind of upside, even though there might be some inconsistencies just with how that offense is, I don't think they're really looking for a true alpha wide receiver 1 and how they're going to run that offense. And I think that's kind of what holds this back as well. But with the upside that he has on a week-to-week basis, the upside with Patrick Mahomes moving forward, first-round draft capital, everything that we've talked about Xavier Worthy, if he can fix the hands, which has been a problem for Kansas City, so it's kind of maybe ironic that he goes there. But overall, Worthy is such a talent that I cannot leave him on the board anywhere past the early second.
Just a couple updates. One, he's got to get on the field past Kadarius Toney, so good luck there. Also, David is
Mike trying to make that pretty easy.
David is Mike Shanahan's illegitimate first son. Probably, I'm sure David Shanahan, probably you'd still be a good offensive coordinator in your own right if that's the case. And Mile High Luke has some updates. Because he was hurt this year, every time all three shared the field, McMillan outproduced him. McMillan didn't play all year because he was hurt, then comes back in the college playoffs and Polk disappears. But hey, Mile High Luke, I understand where you're coming from, but like we said before, the NFL tells us how to value these guys. Correct me if I'm wrong. Jalen Polk was drafted before Jalen McMillan.
Well, okay. Here's the thing with that. I think that Jalen McMillan slid down boards, and that was because of the injury this year. I think he's better. I still like Polk more. Let's get that straight.
Yeah.
But I think McMillan is going to be very good at the next level. He is a pristine route runner, and while primarily will play out of the slot at the next level, looking long term, Mike Evans, clock's ticking. Chris Godwin, not as old, but clock's ticking. And Jalen McMillan, I think, could end up being a huge value at the end of the day with this pick. But I still, like I said, prefer Polk a good bit. And the draft capital does reflect that in general. But yeah, I'll take Polk. But to give McMillan some roses, what's up?
Yeah, I like McMillan too. I just wish he was a little more physical running through contact. David wants to know if we could run down all the picks. He came in late. I sure can.
Sure.
The 101, Caleb Williams. Number 2, Marvin Harrison Jr. The 103, J.J. McCarthy. 104, Malik Neighbors. 105, Roma Dunze. 106, Drake May. 107, Jaden Daniels. 108, Bo Nix. 109, Brock Bowers. The 110, Lab McConkey. 111, Brian Thomas Jr. 112, Jonathan Brooks. Then second round, 201, Jalen Polk. 202, Xavier Worthy. And then, Bob, we're up to you at the 203. Do we have a hard decision here?
Yeah,
How we
this is
feeling?
a tough one. That was easily my favorite player still left on the board, and that was who I was considering between at the 111 even.
Oh, I'm looking at your tier here. I'm not sure. You're not really excited about.
I'm not excited about any of these picks here. I'll be excited about my next round of pick.
Would this be a trade back for you if that was an option?
This is definitely a trade back situation for me, just because I don't think anybody really that I like fits the bill here. There's Xavier, who I'm looking at in this tier here that I have on the board. Xavier Legette, Keon Coleman, Trey Benson. That's my tier, along with Jalen Polk, who's obviously off the board. And my issues with Keon Coleman, obviously pretty raw, but you have to look at the landing spot. You have to look at the draft capital. It's nice. It's hard not to like, and still, I can still acknowledge while raw, crazy awesome upside, good quarterback. And the thing is too, some reflection on my rankings are where you're going to sometimes have to draft guys, and usually, my inflection of how I feel about them is still in there. But, then I got Trey Benson, who I like. I think we got to pump the brakes on year one expectations. James Conner is a very good running back, and we have to stop playing this game of the guessing game of when is this guy going to fall off a cliff, because it's while I like to be out a year early, I would rather invest at the right time, which at this value is not now. I would think that, while Trey Benson is good, slower start this year, James Conner gets the bulk of the work. Trey Benson kind of gets looked at like Kendre Miller. Obviously different situations a little bit there, but that's kind of the trajectory. And I think a better time to buy might be later. And that's why I don't love him here. But looking at Xavier Legette as the other pick on the board here, really have question marks about that fifth-year breakout with no production leading up to it. I mean, not even a sniff of really anything going on. I know he had real-life issues going on too that I don't want to discredit or anything like that, but that does, at the end of the day, halt development. You're a 23-year-old playing against 18 and 19-year-olds, albeit a good strength of schedule competition-wise. You're not playing scrubs out there at South Carolina. So I'm going to go with Trey Benson here, begrudgingly, because of the fact that we are so limited with our running back landing spots.
We really are.
So based on, the economy of positional value, I don't love it. This is a pick that I'm just kind of happy. If this is my pick at 203, I'm just kind of happy taking it and letting things develop, letting things simmer. And hopefully by then I'm able to get my poop together and be a competitive team for when Benson, long term, very high upside.
Yeah.
I mean, he is one that definitely lands in a position where he could be a running back 1 at the end of the day, with that landing spot, with a workload he could get. So I'll take him here at some value, I think. But
Sean, what did you just do with our cameras here?
you put them backwards.
Goodness. Sean,
Sean, what did you do?
What
oh
are
my
you
gosh.
He
doing?
was just so perturbed at the Trey
Get it here.
Benson pick that
Get it here.
he just changed all the angles to listen. I'm kind of happy that Bob went Trey Benson there
I'm not. That's who I was hoping to get on my
That's-
next pick.
because I was eyeing Xavier Legette. And I'm a little surprised. I'm a little surprised that Keon Coleman is still available.
So which is your go?
I'm gonna go with Keon Coleman.
Okay.
And let me preface this by saying a couple things. I don't love Keon Coleman, but at the 204 for him to be Josh Allen's wide receiver 1, I'm not expecting anything like Stephon Diggs type production. I think this is going to be a different kind of offense with Joe Brady, right? A little bit more spread it around. But Josh Allen literally texted Brandon Beane Keon Coleman yesterday. So I'll take that for what it is. I actually really wanted Xavier Legette here, but I feel like I have to take the player in the better offense. There is a very real possibility where Xavier Legette is the better player in Dave Canales' system than Keon Coleman is in Joe Brady's system. I'm just going with the better offense, the better quarterback here. The difference in draft capital is 1 pick, right? I think Legette went 32 and Coleman went 33. So
Yes,
but it is
right.
round 1, round 2. So I'm going to go with Keon Coleman here. I'm going to go with Keon Coleman.
Legette going to be hitting his second contract at age 28. No big deal.
But this is also like you're okay investing in Keon Coleman and Xavier Legette early to mid second round.
This is-
right?
this
is
is
where
a-
you're okay
this
doing
is-
it. It's
yeah,
not
good
110 or
valuation.
112.
Yeah,
It's
like
204.
Like I said, it's not a bad spot. This is exactly how my tier is shaking out. So unless Mike wants to screw it up, I feel pretty accurate.
I have no problem screwing everything up. So my next pick, I'm going to take Xavier Legette.
Ah, there it
Hey,
is.
keep the tier intact.
Yeah. So, we got Jonathan Mingo part 2 rolling out there. But look, the fact of the matter is the Panthers are trying their best to give Bryce Young some weapons. I love them bringing in Jonathan Brooks. They got Deontay Johnson down there now. You know what? We like Xavier Legette. And somebody mentioned yesterday that Xavier Legette had some issues, lost both of his parents in college,
Mhm.
kind of head wasn't in the game.
Real life stuff happens. I get it.
I completely
I'm not trying
understand
to,
that.
and saying that, with the long-term breakout or the late breakout, I'm not trying to discredit any of that, but just, separating myself from that, there is still real life development on the game side of things that does get halted there. And
Of course.
while understandable, it's still facts.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, though, if you guys have only watched Xavier Legette and never heard him speak, sorry, yeah, I know, because I
You
can't
got a
do it
little
right
bit
now.
into
I
the
can't
Xavier
do it right
Legette.
now.
Handling is
Listen to this man's voice. He has such a deep voice. I absolutely love. Hey, we got coffee.
Oh,
Sean,
we
all I
got
need
the
now is
box
some
of
half
Joe.
and half.
Bring it over here.
There we
Put
go.
it right here.
Fantastic.
Sponsored by Duncan today.
Look at that. We get a $20 super chat and then we get
That's
coffee.
the
This
coffee
is my
shows up,
metric. Thank you
please.
so much.
It's
This is
like-
exactly what I want.
It's like the super chat paid for the coffee. It's amazing.
But we do apologize for the camera mishap. If you think we should replace Sean with his son, please leave it down below. We will do it. But I'm taking Xavier Legette. And by the way, before we move on, we have to touch on this next super chat that we had coming in. This is from Mr. 12. It's been a great year on the Dynasty Rewind. I can echo
right.
that. It has
Sure
been
has
great.
been.
Thank you, everybody, for your support.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to the second. Luke McCaffrey, a late second
Woo.
now. I don't. You know
Woo.
what? I mean,
Oh,
we,
no.
we can answer that because it might be a possibility. Did we see Luke McCaffrey getting picked where he got picked?
No, this is a Nepo pick. We were talking about it a little bit earlier.
Yeah, for sure.
What did I say before we sat down here? At breakfast, I said, if his name is Luke Smith, is he a
it's a
third
way
round
less
pick?
cooler names.
Also, Sean has already been replaced by his daughter. She's doing a fantastic job. She has not messed anything
Yeah.
up.
Luke
unlike her
Smith is not
father,
a third round pick in
she's
the
doing
NFL
great. Thank
draft.
you,
with that
Margo.
Luke
profile.
Smith. Luke
Yeah.
Smith is not a third
Played
round pick.
quarterback for a
Yeah.
bunch of years.
Yeah, let's
At Rice.
let's
Yeah.
break this
Versatility.
Come on, man.
we
Well-
want versatility, don't
well,
we? He
he,
understands route concepts.
down. Yeah.
His dad was a wide
Well,
receiver.
that's what we like to say about all that stuff.
Yeah.
But
We're talking ourselves
mean,
into it.
well, I'm not. But you have this, winding road of how things have shaken out for his college career and all the production and things like that. And, yes, he has, when you look at his stats, kind of fun at the tail end of his career playing at Rice, barely a top 100 competitive schedule. When you look at production profiles that I have that I've been dropping in the Discord, another reason to maybe hopping over there.
That's a great job on those production
Appreciate
profiles,
it.
bud. You guys gotta hop in there and check it out for sure. 100%.
Awesome.
It is
How
fun.
many players? 700?
746
My God.
and counting. So
Is Tip Ryman on there?
he is on there.
All right.
He is on there.
Is
I did
Brevin Spanford on there?
He is on there.
Oh
and they
my
are both
goodness.
very bad.
Spoiler alert, they're
but,
not good.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's just the they even said it on the broadcast last night. He's still learning wide receiver. Great. And he has this awesome athletic profile and there's a lot of upside. At the end of the day, he's a developmental prospect. And while he has the name value, great, do not overdraft him. He is a guy you immediately grab and put on your taxi because not only is he development himself, he's got Terry McLaurin in front of him, Jahan Dotson in front of him for now. I know not everybody loves Jahan Dotson here. In the world.
Okay, I'm about to say.
We love you.
Well, I know Zack and a Jahan Dotson guy either sometimes, but
Zack doesn't like being correct sometimes. So
hey, you gotta be right in your believe in your ways. But at the end of the day, absolute stash pick for me. I don't think I'm looking at any point in this draft.
No, he's a third rounder
too
at
much
best. Third rounder at best for me.
Also, Mile High Luke, his guys for today, Javon Baker and Anais Smith. Agreed on Javon Baker. I'm not a big Anais Smith fan. I feel like he's a special
I
teams
like
player.
either of them.
I could be a nice Smith.
He's a
fan,
special
depending
teams
on where
guy.
he goes. He is definitely a special teams guy. But if he goes to a place where there is no one in the slot, then he does offer some upside there.
But Mr. 1-2, when you're talking about McCaffrey as a late second, I mean, I'm looking at where we are in this draft right now and what is left. And I'm not sure about that. I think you might still be able to get him in the third.
I think he's a third rounder.
Yeah.
Who's this?
McCaffrey.
sorry.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Real quick, since you brought up Javon Baker, Luke, I want to shout you out and pump the profiles a little bit. Judging off of overall production compared to strength of schedule, over 204 wide receivers. Scoring wise, Javon Baker is 31st percentile when it comes to how he shook out in all of this. And, as much as, I built this myself and whatever, but, 31st percentile, not great. Not a lot of hits down there. And the fact of the matter is too, he has a relatively good strength of schedule grade. He has A+ grade, which means a good number of the time he was playing top 25 production or top 25 schedules. And a lot of that came from Georgia Alabama. I'm sorry. When he couldn't get on the field, couldn't even take on the competition of his own team before he could get on the field. And that, transfer down to see competition or to see production. Cool. But then that's where his grade fell off quite a bit, is having those 2 years at UCF where things, obviously playing less levels of talent there. So that's my big concern with him. Yes, it was cool to see production. It's better to see production than not. At the end of the day, that's where you see outliers, is guys that actually still have production. You don't have either. That's really bad for you. But just want to throw that out there. Sorry. Let's get back to the mock.
No, you're good. So, all right, Mr. 1-2, thank you very much for checking in with us. So I just picked Xavier Leggett, as Uncle Roger called him. Is that that's what he said, right? Yeah, Leggett.
Spaghetti.
And I'm calling him Uncle Roger now. You guys, we all saw the 18-game possibility with 2 bye weeks, President's Day weekend, Super Bowl, because player safety not as important as they make it out to be. So, should be fun. But Nate, let's move on to.
I'm here at the 206. Give me plenty of time to think about it, because I was going to pick up Spaghetti Leggett if he was available.
I have to stop you right there, because Waffle Houser says with this $50 super chat,
so much coffee.
$20 makes coffee appear. What does $50 do?
Donuts?
Wow!
All right, look at that.
Got some munchkins. So thank you, Waffle Houser.
Thank you, Waffle.
Thank you, Waffle Houser.
Really
We really
appreciate
appreciate you, man.
We love our
thank you for
patrons so
checking
much.
it. Seriously, yeah, best community out there.
Oh, and we got the Dunkin' Midnight. I specifically asked for this. We got to get the dark roast going. So I gotta make my pick, and then I'll refill my coffee cup.
You got dark roast?
Yeah.
All
I
right.
made sure to get dark roast with both of us.
Oh, thanks.
All right.
Thank you, Waffle Houser. We appreciate you, man.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, sir.
So here at the 206, I'm really actually stuck between 2 players, though. There's 3 players I kind of considered here, all at different positions.
Don't love that.
I think there's a tight end that
No, there
I would
isn't.
love to pick up here.
Tim
No, I
Ryman.
think there is.
I think
There
there's a
is
tight end I would
tight end
love
I
to
need to
pick up.
take right now.
But
Trey McBride is trash.
I'm not saying that this is. I don't think this is a tight end premium mock draft that we're doing here. And even if it is, I'm going to have to go with my guy because I don't know if he's going to fall back to me. Marshawn Lloyd going to the Green Bay Packers.
There it is.
Coming off the Senior Bowl, I thought Lloyd performed really, really well and locked himself in day 2 draft capital. I felt very confident that he was the day 2 pick, but we still needed to see it because, as you saw this running back class, only 4 running backs picked in day 2. So, he had to be someone's flavor. And he was for the Packers, who have Josh Jacobs right now on a 4-year deal. But, Bob, they can basically move off of him after this year if they want. After 2 years, no problem.
Only $13 million guaranteed in that contract. That is a 1-year contract.
It's a 1-year contract that looks like 4. So Marshawn Lloyd being the backup there to spell Jacobs, which is a great place to develop as a rookie, and then going into that Matt LaFleur offense that is full of young talent, full of potential, and still production already at such a young age for most of those players. I just think this is a great landing spot. You're not going to see the production right away, which is why he's dropping to the 206. But Marshawn Lloyd, I mean, easily a top 4 running back in this class because he's a top 4 running back drafted in day 2. So I just love Marshawn Lloyd. He's been an auto draft for me in the late 2nd, and now with the day 2 draft capital, and what I think is a really great landing spot for him. I've come from DeAndre Swift. I think he could put up some really impressive numbers with Green Bay once Josh Jacobs moves on. I think he fits that offense perfectly. I love Marshawn Lloyd at the 206.
I love this pick. I love this
Great
landing
pick.
spot. And I think, honestly, because I do believe in day 3 we will get running backs drafted. Pretty safe bet, I'd say.
I would
think so.
agree with that.
Hopefully.
And I think there are going to be some that, since we've been so deprived, go to fun landing spots that get people a little more excited than they should. And I think Marshawn Lloyd, since he is going to have that year 1 or 2 red shirt, that he could slide a little further. And depending on who, if you like him to begin with, so on, this might be like the top end of where you see Marshawn Lloyd go in your drafts. For that, I like the pick, but I like this pick a lot better.
Thank you.
My tight end 2 coming into the draft, the tight end 2 after day 1 and 2 are wrapped up. I can take Ben Sinnott off the board here. And man, the feeling of vindication when he was drafted in the 2nd round to the Commanders, an immediate starter in an offense, possibly an ascending one with Jaden Daniels, Cliff Kingsbury there as well, to call the plays. I can't say enough. I've talked about his amazing blocking, which is going to be, utilized on all the run concepts and things like that. But the receiving work this guy does too, out of the slot, in line, pretty decent as well. This guy's going to make plays. And, looking long term, Terry McLaurin, while, hey, Luke McCaffrey upside on a ticking clock, these guys, there could be targets opening up more and more over time as Sinnott develops. You take a little, you're going to get, I think, a little production right away. Top 12, I'm not saying that, but once all is said and done, he's in the league. I think top 12 is well within the realm of possibility, especially at tight end. That's not really saying too much. Comes down to opportunity. It comes down to skill. Ben Sinnott has both. He has the athleticism. I love this pick. Being able to get him at 207, I'm pumped. Even though it isn't tight end premium or anything like that, you might have to draft him a little earlier in those cases, but my boy.
I like it. I think this is also,
Better, Bob?
I feel a little better for now.
Okay.
it also helps Jaden Daniels. I like that Daniels not only has 2 wide receivers that we like, but now as a tight end as well. I think a good tight end for a rookie quarterback is always, great for the development. Like, he's got a good backfield. As much as we have put some doubt into the air for Jaden Daniels, he has ended up landing in a pretty good spot. Where there is talent around him, he has to rise to the occasion. He has to show us that he can, use that talent, but it's there. The opportunity is definitely there for Jaden Daniels to, have that upside and hit that upside.
I think the most important thing for Jaden Daniels is Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, it's going to really rely on him.
Not there. I don't know if I'd even touch Jaden Daniels because he has to overcome a defensive head coach.
You might have to overcome Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, did you see that offense at USC last year?
He is sus. So, like I said, we don't know.
Isn't that
But
Lincoln
look,
Riley's offense?
No matter
to
what
be
Cliff
fair.
Kingsbury's teams have done, they've been able to score points. And that's all that we care about. As you said yesterday, we're reading box scores.
Attached to Kyler, attached to Patrick Mahomes, attached to Kyler.
Is that a very good quarterback? So is it Kingsbury? Is it the
Adam
quarterback?
Gaze syndrome.
Oh
that we're
no.
looking at?
No. Dude, no, that is
Maybe.
no, it's
Maybe.
not. Adam Gase
Slightly better than that.
Adam Gase was the worst professional NFL coach that ever existed. And that is not hyperbole.
What about
Not
Urban Meyer?
hyperbole. Worse.
I think Urban Meyer was worse
No,
than Adam
no.
Gase.
Adam Gase was the worst professional head coach the NFL has ever seen. The worst.
All right. What's your pick, Zach?
Mike Tomzula would like a word, but by all means, go ahead.
Man, I am stoked about this pick. I am so stoked about this pick. You're taking round 3 running backs over first round wide receivers. What the heck is
I
going
think
on?
I know what's
We're doing
happening
around
here.
We got Ricky Pearsall still on the
Yeah.
board. Oh my goodness.
First round wide receivers.
Wide receiver
Fourth
3.
receiver on my team.
In a really good offensive system as well. Yeah, sure. There might not be the volume in year 1. I think one of those 2 wide receivers is not there, at least in year 2. And then you're talking about some of the other players in that offense, George Kittle and CMC getting a little bit older. Love the fit of Pearsall with San Francisco. If it was Pearsall to, the Patriots, I would not like it anywhere near as much. I think Jalen Polk is a better player than Ricky Pearsall, but I'm talking about now a player that I really like because of his ability to get open, which usually translates in the NFL in a system that is designed to get players open, which is San Francisco. So I love the fit. I love picking up this value here. This might be my favorite pick of all my picks thus far, just because I'm getting Pearsall at the 208. If I was getting Pearsall at the 112, I wouldn't love it as much, but I'm soaking up a first round wide receiver that's going to a really good system. This isn't N'Keal Harry to New England. Okay, this is Ricky Pearsall to a team offensively that is top 5 year in and
Zach,
year out. So
you hate the Patriots. We get it.
Yeah. Sean's pretty upset over there.
We get it.
I know. Yeah.
Oh no, what happened?
I'm stoked about this
Zach's
pick. I'm
muted.
stoked about taking Ricky Pearsall here at the 208.
All right, so Zach is going with Sticky Ricky Pearsall at the 208. I have, a lot of thoughts here of what I could do with my last pick of this mock draft. I mean, we got some guys on the board, like Tip Ryman's on the board, which is where he'll stay. As far as I'm concerned, kind of irritated you guys took all these good, juicy running backs, but you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to plant my flag with my guy. Robert Saleh said Malachi Corley, no matter what. And I'm going to say it at the 209. That's what I'm going to do here. So we're going to go with Malachi Corley. He's going to have to compete for some targets in the Jets offense. Got Breece Hall, catches a lot of passes. Of course, Garrett Wilson's there. Let's see what happens with Aaron Rodgers. Hopefully coming back to some sort of competent form this season. But Malachi Corley is my guy at the 209. I can't wait to do a mock when everybody has landing spots. So
Yep. At this point, I'm probably picking up someone that's drafted today, to be quite honest.
Really?
Yeah. I'm probably picking up my favorite player from day 3 at this point. Maybe a running back in a really good spot that I feel okay with for a year or 2, and then I can move on once they do well. Or maybe a wide receiver like Troy Franklin if he finds a really good spot. But I will have to go with a wide receiver that has found himself in a really great opportunity, and that's Roman Wilson going to the Steelers. He's the wide receiver 2 there. I know that we have some quarterback worries,
Wes
but
Watkins would like a word.
I don't think Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, while I don't love it if I was a Steelers fan because it's just kind of a mess. I don't love it for overall upside for that offense, but I think either one of those guys could at least manage to support a wide receiver 2 in that offense to at least be fantasy relevant on a flex level. I think Roman Wilson, while he does not have the elite upside that I think a lot of these other wide receivers have in this draft class, I think Roman Wilson is a pro's pro. He comes from that Michigan team. A lot of those players are. That's why we saw so many drafted yesterday, especially. I think Roman Wilson is pretty easily a plug-and-play player. We've seen the Steelers do very, very well with wide receivers drafted outside of day 1. I believe since Mike Tomlin has been there, he's had 5 or 6 1,000-yard receivers who were drafted outside of day 1. So that's good development for them. Roman Wilson steps right into that wide receiver 2 role across from George Pickens, who I also have worries about being a wide receiver 1. So agreed. I think, because Russell Wilson's there, we're going to hear the DK Lockett comparison for Pickens and Wilson. And while we're nowhere near that between the two of them, I think that Wilson will definitely give Pickens a run for his money for production in that offense. And at the late second, if I'm picking up a productive flex in Roman Wilson, I could definitely be doing worse.
Second round wide receivers in the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Not as good as you think, but sure.
Or was he a third round?
He was
I'm
third round
I'm
pick.
sorry. Forgive me.
Still, doesn't matter.
It's early
Day two,
or late,
Steelers,
depending
yeah.
on how you look at it.
He's a wide receiver 2 on the team. Opportunity.
Yeah,
We look at box scores.
I don't hate it.
That's what it comes down to. And I don't like a lot what's left on the board at this point.
He was
Fair enough.
definitely in this tier for me. Not an exciting consideration. I'm kind of surprised you didn't go Adonai Mitchell here.
Yeah, so that's
Is that where you're going, Bob?
No,
Okay.
but
Shocker.
I will take Jermaine Burton off the board here.
I'll be honest,
I
I
like
kind of
that.
forgot about Adonai. Oh, well.
So did the NFL.
Sucks.
Well.
No, they didn't. They just
Chris Ballard loves him, though.
appropriately valued him. But so I'm going to take Jermaine Burton here, and this is a lot of with what's going on with T. Higgins and Jermaine Burton. While he never had as much as a hoe for production that I am, never had great numbers, but had good sustainable numbers throughout every year of college at 2 very established programs. There's I guess some character concerns are what led to this fall of, maybe kind of lazy, maybe doesn't put in the full effort. But at the end of the day, he gets kind of possibly redshirt this year. T. Higgins has said that he expects to play this year in Cincy. So is that one year deal that he's on. So long term, we could be looking at the wide receiver 2 in Cincinnati. And at this cost, I think unless it's a low risk pick, if T goes, Jermaine Burton is through the roof value wise comparatively to what we're at now.
Yeah.
Super low cost to enter, very cheap to get in. It's a low risk pick, but very high upside. And I'm not saying that Jermaine Burton's going to be the next T. Higgins, because I don't think he's that good. But I do think he's good enough that even if you end up stuck with him and you can't move him for something you really like, I think you're going to end up with a very fun flex play that can help you a lot of weeks. And that, like I said, I low
There's
risk,
upside
high
there.
reward pick for a guy who did enough, and maybe he's matured past the character concerns that have been out there. As much as I don't love those, but hey, sometimes that is what leads to falls and lack of production in the NFL, so it matters.
Okay. All right. Zach, you want to close this draft out for us?
Yes.
Where he's
So
going.
I was very much considering Adonai Mitchell here at this spot.
Michael
has-
Penix is still on the board?
Blake Corum hasn't been selected, correct?
Hot dog.
I'm just checking.
You're
I'm just checking.
correct.
I'm just
He has
checking.
not been selected.
Okay.
I thought about him too.
Okay, so I am going Michael Penix here. Here's my reasoning.
Blake Corum hasn't been selected, right? No, not yet. All right,
I
I'm going
wanted to
Michael
see
Penix.
who's still on the
Has
board.
Michael Penix been selected?
No, he was just trying to make a slide. Oh, Blake Corum sucks. They must not be that much regret to Kyron.
No, Michael Penix has not been
I'm
selected.
going Michael Penix here. I'm the league champion. I can afford this. I picked up a
humble.
running back at the 112.
Don't hate it.
Thank you. But did you see how Nate said that?
At the 212, I don't hate it. I don't like
Hate
it.
In my heart of hearts, here's what I think is gonna, and I have no insight to this whatsoever. But
Don't
like,
your taxes.
if I'm Kirk Cousins, I'm not happy with this at all.
No.
So I'm probably doing what I have to do for the first year and potentially asking out after 1 year, because they have told you after 2 years, you're out. And everything Kirk Cousins has done this offseason is he has been the company guy. He has put on the Falcons logo and been front and center and been, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to retire here. This is going to be my last spot. And the Falcons said, dude, no, it's not. So if I'm Kirk Cousins, who I had no insight to this whatsoever, and that's not me making that up. That's not me assuming. That is the reports that are out there. He had no idea. He was completely blindsided by this. I'm saying I don't want to be your lapdog in year 2. So let's find a situation where you get your guy. He's 25 years old. He's ready to be on the field. He doesn't need to be behind me. Send me somewhere else. And so I think this is a 1 year sit for Michael Penix.
Okay.
And so to do that, and even if it's a 2 year thing, I'm getting a first round quarterback at the end of the second round, almost a third round. So listen, there are some questionable players, Blake Corum, Adonai Mitchell. We don't know what their opportunities are, right? Even there's like Ricky Pearsall, who if he was available here, I'd pick him here. But the remaining players on the board, there's nothing guaranteed.
I like this.
So I'm taking a player in 1 or 2 years that will be on the field and be a quarterback.
It's the 212, and so you're not missing out on much. I mean, your other options are risky as well, and you're an injury away from selling him for a first round pick.
It's true. What
I'll
if-
give you that.
What about this? What if, Kirk decides he wants out after a year, Aaron Rodgers retires to smoke peyote in the desert full time, and then Kirk Cousins goes to the
Ayahuasca.
whatever it is. And then Kirk Cousins goes to the New York Jets. They seem to like retreaded quarterbacks. Now all of a sudden stock up for Garrett Wilson, for everybody else there. I mean, it's a good possibility. And you know what? I do agree with you, Zach. It kind of stinks for Kirk. He did everything right this offseason. And their general manager, whose name I can never pronounce, so I don't try to. There it is. He's just like, here's how you get fired at your job. This is what you do.
Well,
That trade up in the second round for the defensive tackle
that's
too.
The consideration here too is how long is he even the GM, and then what ties does the next GM have to Michael Penix besides trying to clean up the mess? I think at the end of the day, I think it's much more likely that Michael Penix ends up traded by a new GM than move on from Kirk, or maybe you move Kirk and just try to see what you have in Michael Penix. Either way, I just right now for what the situation is, I think it's silly to go play all these hypotheticals. Oh, maybe Kirk's going to the Jets. Maybe Kirk asked for a trade. Maybe this or that. For what the situation is right now, Michael Penix is doing nothing for you besides taking up a taxi squad slot or room on clutter on your roster.
We do like quarterbacks on the taxi, though, in all fairness.
Do we? But
Nate does.
In the third round.
But at the end of the day, for what he's doing for you right now, I will not have a single share of Michael Penix. I don't care where it falls in drafts. I just, if the mindset is here to not predict a start in 2 years, because I will not say that. I don't believe that to be factual by any stretch of the imagination. There was interviews where they said 4 or 5 year plan for the guy, which, good God, and if you're waiting on a 29-year-old quarterback to make his first start at that point, even then, what are you hoping for fantasy? Asset. He's. I don't believe in the talent enough to expect him to be that good when he does get a shot. I'm not going to have a single share. I'm out on the guy, out on the whole thing. Have him.
Let's recap the second round, and also want to say welcome to our new Patreon member, Hill Maddock. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. If you want to get in there too, do a week free. See how you like it and stick around. But recapping the second round, 201 Jalen Polk, 202 Xavier Worthy, 203 Trey Benson, 204 Keon Coleman, 205 Xavier Leggett, 206 Marshawn Lloyd, 207 Ben Sinnott, 208 Ricky Pearsall, 209 Malachi Corley, 210 Roman Wilson, 211 Jermaine Burton. And then closing it out at the 212, Zach took Michael Penix Jr. Let's take some questions. Sean, what do you got for me? So this is from Jonathan. 16-team, 1 quarterback, tight end premium. I drafted at the 102, League Neighbors, 105, League Worthy. I have the 202. Should I draft a running back or wide receiver again?
Depends on what's there.
Yeah.
Let's kick it around. If Jonathan Brooks or Trey Benson is there.
We got an update. He has Anthony Richardson, Jaden Reed, and Roshan Johnson as well.
I mean, if that's all you got cooking for running backs, I might not even think about running back because once they hit your roster, yes, we've seen some development over the last couple of years where they take somewhat of a redshirt year. We keep throwing that out, but a year to kind of sit, develop, and cook. And, yes, so it's not necessarily burning a hole in your pocket right away all the time, but, you're probably best served adding somebody who's a little more considered to be long-term, and maybe you find a way to trade back and add Marshawn Lloyd, get a vibe check Lloyd for what you're looking at, because he's really not going to get much work year one at all. I think they're going to run Josh Jacobs into the ground. They have AJ Dillon there too to continue to run into the ground and be super inefficient. But that's kind of the play I think I'd make. But at the end of the day, we always go back to best player available. What's the best player? What's that? And in a tight end premium, is Senate a consideration?
Senate's definitely a consideration there. It's a 16-team league, so the 202 is.
Oh, sure. It's even,
it's 18th pick. So I think Senate, Marshawn Lloyd, definitely, if Trey Benson's available here, you might be going any of those guys. Yeah.
I think Trey Benson,
probably not close, but if he's there, taking him. Lloyd, Senate, I think those are good options there. Looking at, doing this 2-round mock that we just did, I want a top 20 pick. I want a pick up until 208. And at that point, I think it drops off a good bit for me. So a top 20 pick is what I'm shooting to get into the late first, early second, mid second. Once we get to the late second, I think we're getting into a bit more of unknown, a bit more of hit or miss. But I feel pretty good about a top 20 pick right now. That's for sure.
All right, cool. Let's move on to another one. Just a reminder, super chats do get priority for other questions. This is
They also
from
get us coffee and
Yes,
donuts.
they do. This is from Sean W. Is this the best time to trade is the best time to trade mid seconds now or on the clock?
No.
Draft is next weekend.
On the clock. Always trade on the clock. Once you
I
get
mean,
once you get to this point, let the rookie fever hit. When I get about a week to 10 days from the draft, I wait till I'm on the clock. Here's what I was able to do yesterday in a real draft. I was able to move the 103 plus for Jordan Love, so somebody could draft Jaden Daniels. Let that rookie fever hit someone else. Capitalize
Hey,
while
Jordan
you're
Love,
on the
man.
clock, because there are 11 to 15 other people in your league. Somebody is going to want to move up into one of those spots. So at this point, when I get about a week to 10 days prior to the draft, I wait until I'm on the clock.
I think this can be very true with first round picks because there's that much more people on the available to draft. But when you get into that second round, the viability of people on the board is just a little less exciting. And when you have that possibility of, well, this pick could be anything, it could even be exactly what you could trade out of that pick for.
Mhm.
You know, then I think it's maybe a little bit more worth exploring second round picks, and thirds, obviously, too. I think it's worth exploring those a little earlier because of how quick the board can kind of fall off. And it's, you just talked about the top 20. If, all of a sudden the picks at 19, 18, people just don't want for whatever reason it may be, then you might be stuck making the pick. And maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe you like whoever's in that range anyway. Maybe you're fine with it. I wouldn't be opposed to shopping around, accepting some phone calls for those picks and beforehand. But I would hold first for anybody else listening to the question here. But seconds, I'd be open to suggestion, but I won't just take anything either. I want an offer I'm happy with. That's my only thought, is that it is opportunistic that you were able to do that at the 102, 103, because a lot of players there, somebody really wanted Jaden Daniels. Somebody isn't going to want Ben Sinnott as much as, well, maybe I will, but as much as they'd want Jaden Daniels at that pick. And obviously you're dealing different values anyway there, but just a thought I have on that.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Sean, I text you which one to bring up. There it is. This is from Waffle Hauser. My question, though basic, that's okay. We answer stuff like that too, is truthfully, what do we expect with May and Polk? New coach, decent running backs. Hunter Henry is okay. I think this might be a little bit of a stock up for Hunter Henry. Am I crazy to think they can legit make a big splash? I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's right away.
Yeah.
We're going to have to temper our expectations for some time. Sean, you're a Patriots fan. You could agree with that, right?
Yes. It's also, we had to think too, this is a whole new regime.
Whole new regime.
Whole new regime.
Version of Patriots we've never seen before.
We've never seen this kind of Patriots before. I'm
Yeah.
speaking for Sean over here because he doesn't have a mic.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. We're so used to Bill Belichick for so long, so I'm actually kind of excited to see what the Patriots do, to be honest with you.
Yeah, me too. I think Polk is very good, but also very versatile and very pro-ready. He can play the X, he can play the flanker, he can play inside. He runs good routes, he wins contested catches. He's going to be a versatile player for them. So I think that there is a lot of upside that's going to be baked into the May Polk stack. Not get the pay for the upside that comes with it, but I think there's also a safe floor that comes with it. So I'm definitely intrigued with Drake May, with Polk. I want to continue to see them maybe, invest in another wide receiver in day 3, maybe a tight end as well, continue to build around Drake May, like how we've seen the Panthers, invest into their young quarterback. There's a lot that needs to happen with the Patriots, but they definitely need to invest in May to help him develop, because we've seen before, if you have a really good quarterback, the rest of the team at the end of the day doesn't really matter. That quarterback can get you where you need to get to. So if they continue to develop around him, good things are going to happen. And I think there's a lot of upside with Polk. I think with May there, we're going to be out here saying Polk's a top 30 wide receiver, possibly. I think that's kind of the potential that he has there with May to be a top 30 guy. To have a wide receiver 2 kind of season is within the realm of possibilities. Not his rookie year, but I could see that kind of upside within his rookie contract with May there.
It makes a great point too. We've heard people say things like, well, he didn't elevate his receivers. Something you can't elevate bad players. They are what they are. Am I right?
And Mahomes isn't elevating his wide receivers. They're bringing them down.
For example, we never saw Justin Fields elevate Velus Jones. So it's just one of those things. If you're not, you know what? I already trash talked Tyquan Thornton, had to get Velus in there too. So, but yeah, I mean, no, I don't think it's crazy. I think it's going to take some time though.
One thing I do want to say at this point is we tend to do this thing in the Dynasty community where we view the team the same as last year. And we never have the foresight to say, who's last year's Houston Texans? Who's 2 years ago's Detroit Lions? An offense that ascends and you should have seen coming. And while I'm not putting a stamp on the New England Patriots, it's probably going to be better than a bottom 5 offense, right? And so I think we're valuing Drake May and Jalen Polk right now as if they are just filling in on a bottom 5 offense, as opposed to them taking a step forward and being a middle of the pack offense.
Bottom
right?
10 offense.
When we talked, look, you
give us some credit.
You may have liked CJ Stroud last year, but nobody thought that they'd take this step. Nobody thought Nico Collins or Tank Dell or Dalton Schultz
I thought about
would be what they became. So I'm not saying, hey, look, the New England Patriots can become the Houston Texans, but you have to ask yourself which teams in the bottom 10 take a step forward and are better prospects than you think they are. And I think the New England Patriots are a perfect candidate to be a middle of the pack offense and maybe even better. Who knows?
I think the Panthers are as well.
I agree.
Especially with their new head coach and the weapons they put around. I think I'm personally going to put my money on the Panthers before the Patriots, but I think they are in the same conversation.
I think the Pats are one you see, this is a good first step, but I think
next year,
yep. And maybe, whatever they're able to do with the pieces they add this year as well, that they still have yet to add, could be one of those things that we're looking at next year. It's like, Patriots, hey, this team is looking good. And since you brought up Velus Jones, I just wanted to tout these production guys a little bit. Velus Jones, 3rd percentile production score in college. Hey, it's not great. That one turned out pretty good.
Yeah,
could be a thing with kick returns now.
Hey, and if you want to see those production scores, make sure you go to patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind / one of the slashes Dynasty Rewind. We're giving away a week for free. So jump in, check out the Discord. It is one of the best Discords out there. We're so active. We have so many people in there. We know all of their names and we love them. And we love our Patreon community. So make sure you join a week on us and then stick around if you like it.
We're like the Cheers of Dynasty
walk in.
Discords.
Look how many times we talked to Waffle Houser today.
Yeah, that's right. And Devin saying, feel like Dallas teased us. Maybe Braylon Allen today. That would be interesting. But let's get to Joe's question. He's going after the 102 in a super flex league. Owner wants a running back in the deal. I have Saquon, Kyron, or Kenneth Walker III, along with the 110 as a start. What else is needed, do you think?
Is super flex, right?
Yes, it is.
Well, you're not going to get anywhere with Kyron, his value, and what's that?
But you should try to.
No, now the problem here is now you stick to your guns because you're not going to get the same value. You're selling low.
Should have sold when Nate told you to.
Opportunity, sure, sell then. But the fact of the matter is, his value is tanked. So moving one of those other guys is probably better an option. But it kind of depends on what you want to do with the team. He wants a running back. If you're not committed to having running back help, you move any of them. If you're that much further out, Saquon is the back for me. But if you're, if you feel like you're competitive now and that's why you have Saquon, he's not the one move. I'd urge towards Walker. That's probably the one that gets you the furthest in a conversation right now and keeps you competitive. That's the thing here. If you want to stay competitive, and those are your 3 options, which one can you move that keeps you on the direction you want to go towards? Like if Kyron gets you there, sure, by all means do it. I'm fine with that. I think that's where you throw him in and it's, I need another 2nd round pick. Whereas you throw in Kenneth Walker, it might get you there. That's my thought on it. But, and honestly, I guess if you're willing to throw that 2nd, I don't know if I'd do it, but maybe if it's a future 2nd.
Some context here. Joe Maiden is saying, I'm a contending team, back-to-back champ. Good job, Joe. And he would draft Caleb or Marvin Harrison Jr.
Good pick.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously competitive. So that would, urge me again towards Kenneth Walker. But the thing about moving Kenneth Walker, I don't want to move him because I'm really curious to see what he does with this Ryan Grubb offense.
Me too.
I think it's gonna be a good value.
Be honest, because as much as I think we all like Zach Charbonnet, at the end of the day, I don't know what we're really expecting out of him. But Yeah,
Expecting him to open up the screen game,
yeah.
if we recall correctly.
If you have to move, if that's all you have to move, I think you're in a tough spot. I think that's one of the deals where I don't really terribly see the pieces, unless maybe you have an early second that could go net a running back at that point, or you just say, hey, dude, you're drafting a running back at 110. There you go. Leave me alone. And then maybe you pivot to a different position. That's also exciting that get deal done. If he's thinking Marvin at that pick or Caleb, maybe that's your pivot. The pick is the running back, can be the running back. Then that other option that he throws in helps him elsewhere, or maybe makes up for not making the pick at the 102, whatever that pick might end up being, or whatever he would prefer between a quarterback and a wideout.
I want to bring up a discussion point here, Mike, for us. We've now seen 3 rounds go, and there's still a lot of fantasy relevant players on the board.
Had this year.
Yeah,
I have it.
we know. We know about the players that are left. We're going to talk about them. I think we should talk about them. Some of these guys that are still left on the board.
And the ones
What
that
we
drafted and we didn't draft.
That's true. There's a couple of those guys as well. So, Bob, do you want to start on that list? You want to go over?
Do we want to do the notable undrafted that were drafted in the NFL draft, but we passed on?
Let's go ahead and talk about those guys, and then we'll move on to the players still left on the board. What we want to see from them, maybe some potential landing spots that are still left on the board, and what we're thinking about their draft capital in rookie drafts now that they're going to be day 3 picks.
Yes. So notable undrafted, we got Tip Ryman.
Okay.
How do we feel about that? Is that just fantasy irrelevance?
Fantasy irrelevant. He's the tight end 2 behind McBride. He's the blocking tight end.
Yeah.
It's the Darnell Washington pick from last year, basically.
Doesn't believe in birds.
Doesn't believe in birds, apparently, but neither do I. So,
then another notable undrafted. We kind of hashed this a little bit already, but just for anybody who maybe wasn't here, Luke McCaffrey, definitely a surprise pick.
See, still available in the 3rd.
Still available in the 3rd.
Yep.
Probably somewhere in the 3rd is probably where he's going to go. I doubt anything that happens today is really going to push him. Whether he should or shouldn't be drafted later, that's a different discussion. Anything else to add on Luke McCaffrey? We think he's pretty much a taxi stash, 3rd round pick, very much tempered expectation, developmental prospect.
Yes, to all of that.
We discussed Blake Corum a good bit already.
I think he's like an early 3rd.
I agree. He was somebody who would absolutely in consideration for me at the 211, especially if I have Kyron. I think that's kind of a priority pick for you, unfortunately. That way you just kind of hedge your bets, especially at this point with this draft capital. I mean, you're not paying that much. You're paying as much as you would pay at most to go get a handcuff running back for any other running back you have.
Real quick, Caleb saying not believing in birds, going to a bird team.
There might not be a better way to stick it to the man than to be like, hey, bud, stop it.
Yeah, the Cardinals were trolling him at that point for sure.
They just wanted to be like, yeah, dude, this will be funny. Hit the draft button. So we have Blake Corum. I don't think we have anything else to add there. We haven't really touched on why Adonai Mitchell was not drafted. That's probably the biggest name that I think is going to surprise
Chris
people.
Ballard is driving here right now to punch all of us in the face.
We're not saying it's because of the character concerns or anything like that. I don't think anybody in fantasy here is. That's not weighing into the discussion.
So with Adonai, I personally am not a big fan of the landing spot because I think you got mouths to feed there already with Michael Pittman Jr., who's a target hog. You got Josh Downs, who out of the slot has been a target hog. You have Alec Pierce there as a wide receiver 4 now, but still, I think a rather decent wide receiver 4. Adonai Mitchell goes in there. You got Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. I think for Adonai Mitchell to be what a lot of people want him to be and say that's like a top 30 wide receiver, you need Anthony Richardson to hit his ceiling.
Yeah.
You need him to be 90 plus percentile in his potential. And I'm not the one betting on that. There's plenty of people out there that are betting on that. You need him to really hit his ceiling for him to be able to carry 3 wide receivers, because I think that's what it's going to take for Adonai Mitchell. I don't think he's that far ahead of Josh Downs, where he's going to be the obvious wide receiver 2, especially with Michael Pittman Jr. being the very obvious wide receiver 1 here. So I think you're going to have like a 2A, 2B going on with Mitchell and Downs, which means if you want those guys to be super fantasy relevant for you and be that top 30 wide receiver for either one of them, you need Anthony Richardson to hit, and not only just hit, but hit with his arm as well, because we know he's going to be great with the running, but he's going to have to not run enough to let the passing yards reach the ceiling to let these guys be fantasy relevant. So, Zach, I want to let you talk because I know you're a bit bigger of a fan of this landing spot than I am.
I mean, okay, it's just because you're so low on it.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm not a big fan of the Adonai Mitchell landing spot. I think it's okay. They talked about it, I think, on the NFL
Big
Network.
guy.
They talked about it on the NFL Network, why he fell. They said, the interviews, some teams didn't like his body language. And it's very much the Adonai Mitchell label, right? Just like sometimes just seems disinterested, right?
Mhm.
So I think for where you can get him in rookie drafts, late second, early third, that's fine.
Sure.
You're taking chances there anyways. There are some players that are going to hit, and there's some players that are not going to hit. You don't have to draft Adonai Mitchell anymore at the top half of the second round. You don't have to.
Yeah.
He didn't even get drafted in this. So because of that, and because it's a very good offense, I believe in Shane Steichen. I've been very, very vocal about that. Like you saw how much Philadelphia missed him. You saw how they were relevant without Anthony Richardson, with Gardner Minshew at quarterback.
Hey, Brian Johnson.
So,
Sorry, I had to.
I just, that's sometimes I believe in a system more than a player. And I think that's what it is for me, is like, hey, he didn't go to, Seattle. He went to a place where I think he slots in as a wide receiver too. Maybe Josh Downs gets more volume than him. I don't have much of an opinion on that, but I think it's a good landing spot with a good coach. And I don't disagree with anything you're saying, though. A lot has to go right for him to be fantasy relevant. But at the beginning of the third, I'm willing to take that chance.
Yeah, I mean, we look at Anthony Richardson, 84 attempted passes, 4 games. I know he did leave the game he got hurt in early, 577 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. So I want to see a full season of Anthony Richardson until I feel like we can really accurately value AD Mitchell right now. So at this point, I'm just kind of off of him.
Yeah.
And Bob, I know you've been off of him before he even got drafted.
Here's probably every reason I'm off of Adonai Mitchell. And a lot of it starts with college production. I'm a fan of that. And a lesser fan of one that doesn't really exist until the final season. But, looking at the film, he's one of those players that you can visibly see him take plays off. And that's something that definitely rubs coaches the wrong way.
For sure.
That could be what's been discussed, that, turned coaches off in interviews, or GMs off in interviews. And then, at the combine, he even owned up to it, which is just I take plays off because
I admire the honesty.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't, because it's self-awareness plays a role here
Bob,
too.
Gabe is saying AD Mitchell from a metric standpoint is one of the worst prospects of the class.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Super
inefficient. Yards per route run, yak wreck, Mike. And then you look at this production profile here. Okay, so he is 48th percentile, not terrible, but I also have a pure raw production profile, what they did statistically, and he is 29th percentile in that respect. What he's propped up by is his strength of schedule. So he played. He's somebody with actually a perfect grade. He always played a top 25 schedule. Georgia, Alabama. I mean, probably top 10, to be frank. But and wasn't able to do it at that level of competition. Super inefficient. Metrics don't check out. And then you get to the landing spot. What are you expecting for Adonai Mitchell at this point? Because Michael Pittman's locked in. Josh Downs is there and is very good as a prospect analytically. The only knock on him is the size, and that may be locked into a slot. But hey, slots aren't bad for fantasy or the NFL. I just think for this, I am totally and utterly out on Adonai Mitchell. And one of the things I noticed, just one of my markers here made a note of, is when players are just remarkably inefficient in college, they're inefficient in the NFL and they don't last.
It's not inefficient. Devin chiming in with the $20 super chat. Don't forget to join the Goldie tier in the Discord.
Yeah.
That's where the magic happens. Worth it. Thank you. Yes, we do have a $10 tier. And that basically unlocks everything. If you join that, you get a free copy of our 2024 rookie draft guide as well, which again, you can pre-order.
And the Goldie chat, which is just for the golds. We're in it a lot. We are in that chat a lot. If you want to talk to us, that Goldie chat is where we hang out. So,
and we were talking about this yesterday. We are going to be starting some Goldie leaks
as of this coming week. We're going to be talking.
They've been asking about it.
And they will be on Flea Flicker.
Yeah,
we promise after this, the rookie draft guide is very encompassing, but it is something that is on our radar and it's happening really soon.
So Nate, do you want to get to your other talking points, and then we're going to wrap it up here?
Oh yeah, there's one more.
We still have
Jalen McMillan. Let's keep it short, Bob.
Jalen McMillan did not get drafted. I think the landing spot plays a role. I know you guys are a little more out on him than I am. Yep. And the thing is, like, yes, I'm here championing Jalen McMillan, but he's not my favorite prospect either. But when I see a pristine route runner, like you said before, Zach, that translates. And Tampa Bay, clock's ticking. Another wide receiver would not hurt to have there, especially one that can play out of the slot as much as Jalen McMillan, I think, will in the NFL. But I get him falling. I think
with McMillan, it's a good NFL spot. I think he's going to be a good wide receiver 3 for that team. I think, though, if you're looking at Chris Godwin and Mike Evans moving on at some point, I don't think McMillan's the one filling those shoes. I think they bring somebody else in to fill those shoes. So I think McMillan, a good wide receiver 3 on that offense, but I think that might just be where he is for the foreseeable future, even if the pieces in front of him change.
All right, and then we have some day 3 yet to be drafted.
All right, let's talk about them.
There's somebody I'd like to discuss
Okay.
because I was very disappointed they weren't drafted in day
Tyrone
2.
Tracy.
No, Spencer Rattler.
Don't do that.
Spencer Rattler. There hasn't been a quarterback selected since number 12 in this draft.
It's true.
It's very interesting. We
neither one.
typically don't see that.
Right. There's been a huge. There hasn't been a quarterback picked in almost 100 picks now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And there are some teams that need a quarterback that can compete, that can maybe come in and be a starter or be a starter after 1 year. Spencer Rattler, somebody I like Spencer Rattler's film, man. And went through a lot at Oklahoma, went over to South Carolina. Can make every throw. And a lot of the film that you see with him at South Carolina, pocket collapsing, and dude stands in there and makes
Their line was
very
bad.
NFL type quarterback throw. And that's the stuff that you like to see because that translates from college to the NFL. I'm really hopeful he goes to a very good landing spot where he can develop, where he can flourish, and where he will have an opportunity. Yeah. Like, I don't want to see him go to, Philadelphia.
Yep.
I want to see him go to like a Vegas.
Raiders pick at 112.
There you go.
That's actually 100 picks after the last.
You don't want to see him go to the quarterback factory?
I want to see him go somewhere he has a chance to compete.
I'm actually really surprised that Rattler hasn't been picked off the board yet because we were talking yesterday about the quarterbacks in this draft class. And the next tier is kind of Spencer Rattler and then Michael Pratt, who I think doesn't have the upside of Rattler, but maybe is a bit safer as a backup long term. But after those two, it's quarterback draft class just drops off a cliff. And with that, I'm surprised that teams didn't go grab a Rattler and a Pratt because they knew that if they don't get the two of them, what else is out there?
Here's the thought on that I have, and this goes back to the economy of maybe some explanation of why Troy Franklin fell. The economy is a lot of quarterback slots were filled, and apparently Atlanta decided they needed a backup at pick 108. And then when you have this poor grouping behind them, yes, you'd think that they'd kind of rise up boards. But, if they have a spot, if they feel good, if they'd rather take what's on the board, I think, day 2, we saw, we did the math, 14 in the round 1 fantasy relevant players, 15 in the second day 2, which, out of 2 rounds, there's some math there, but I'm not going to get into it. A lot less players per round is the divulsion there. And whatever that word is.
Close enough.
There's a lot of offensive linemen, defense that went yesterday, and I think that was a lot of the value that was yesterday. And I think quarterback just wasn't on people's radar. And if you're not in the market for a backup or whatever anyway, why are you going to draft any of these other, Sam Hartman, Joe Milton? What's so funny, Mike?
Gabe Walker is saying that Michael Penix Jr. will be on dialysis before making his first start in the NFL.
That's so rough. I mean, sure, but
all right, let's get to these day 3 running backs, and let's talk about a couple of them before they get picked because they're going to get picked in about 20 minutes. They're going to
so we do need to get out of here.
Day 3 is starting soon, so we're giving you the lead up right up to day 3.
way better than NFL Network.
Don't forget, we will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Church is closed for the day. You're coming here. Come hang out with us. Payday was Friday, so bring that super chat money for us.
The draft guide.
The draft guide is going to be
tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. So Nate, give us that run up, and then we're dipping out of here soon so we can watch the draft to bring you guys more content.
Bob, give us some of those running backs. What we got?
So one of the most notable ones for me, Jalen Wright. Had a lot of day 2 hype coming into draft week, and just didn't
athlete playing running back.
Yep. That could be a good bit of it for sure, but didn't make the cut, and that is definitely he needs a friendly spot.
He does.
He needs a Dallas, a Cincy, kind of a backfield that has some opportunity to it, or at least in the near future would be nice.
Right goes the Bengals. He's back in the second, late second probably.
Yeah. Ray Davis, a guy that I know you guys are in on, and I
like Ray.
No neck Ray.
I like as a prospect, but age plays a role here for
Mhm.
sure. I think if he was a 22-year-old running back in the draft with the same production,
Might seem off the board already.
Aggregated over his college career, he probably would have been drafted. But older running back, not good analytically from that perspective.
Good
Your thoughts on
production, though.
him?
I think he'll be a third
Let's
rounder,
check out.
especially with day 3 draft capital. But I think he'll be a good value at day 3 because I think he's a very pro-ready running back. He can step into a role. I don't know if he'll be the leader of a backfield at any point, but I think a lot of teams would be happy with Ray Davis as part of a timeshare, as part of a committee. So even with that day 3 draft capital, I think he's going to be locked into some opportunity, but maybe the upside isn't there to take him in the second round.
Yeah. Two guys that have quite the receiving pedigree. Bucky Irving, Will Shipley. Definitely were probably a consideration, had some draft hype for day 2, not as much as other guys, obviously, but you'd think with these guys having such a receiving pedigree that they'd have a little more consideration, but day 2 or 3 now, they could find themselves in a favorable role, maybe lose some fantasy points in PPR leagues. Who knows more? I think they're both good enough runners as well. And then the last one with no receiving pedigree, Braylon Allen, one of the least efficient receiving running backs in the draft, if not the least efficient.
Throwing out some landing spots potentially for these day 3 running backs. We still have the Giants that could use a running back.
Sure, they could use a banger. They could use Braylon Allen.
We still have Minnesota that could use a backup behind Aaron Jones.
Definitely.
Bucky.
We have the Raiders. We have the Raiders who could use someone to complement Zamir White.
Gotta
Amir
feel
Ab-
good
they
about
have
Zamir
Amir
White though
Abdullah.
right now.
Yeah, we do feel good about
Yeah.
Zamir.
They have Amir Abdullah.
They do have Amir
They do.
Abdullah.
We're good.
Um,
And Alexander Madison, more relevant.
the Ravens have said they are probably drafting a running back sometime day 3, but obviously Derrick Henry's there, so that would be a backup. Cincinnati, they have Zach Moss and Chase Brown, but would not be surprised to see them go after a running back day 3. Let's see.
Dallas have any picks?
Dallas does not
any
have
fourth
any
round
picks
picks.
until. Oh boy, where are we going?
What are they?
What?
By the
are
way, I
they?
just
Are
wanna
all
say-
in, baby. 174th overall pick because they are the 174th best team.
As an Eagles fan, I love what the Cowboys are doing with the draft this year.
Yeah, Zeke's going to be
This
the
deal has to
starting
be as good
quarterback
as
there.
done.
And running
It
back.
has to be like, we'll sign you after training camp, buddy. Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
We'll see you at Christmas,
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
They'll take somebody. Just it'll be 6th or 7th round.
Stock up for Rico Dowdle, I
Maybe
guess.
it's Ray Davis. You know.
Maybe. I think we'll see
Fun.
Denver pick up a running back day 3.
Any
to go with
running back-
Javonte on a contract year.
Any running back that goes to Dallas
Going to get the bump.
has to be a consideration too, because in that consideration of like, hey, yeah, he might pop off, but they could very easily replace this guy very quickly. But the competition there is not much. It's Deuce Vaughn, who honestly we like this prospect but didn't like the size.
Hey, Rico Dowdle season. I've been
No.
on him for like 5 years now. It's about time. About time for it to pop off.
5th-year running back breakout. That
Yeah.
would be interesting.
Rico season, baby.
You heard it here first.
Over it.
All right, Bob. How about some wide receivers still left on the board?
Troy Franklin is the most notable, probably the most hyped up. wide
Breaking my
receiver.
heart.
Early second was kind of expected, mid second.
He was a
just-
first round at one point.
Just slid and slid and slid and slid to a relevancy, maybe, but probably for sure developmental prospect. Another one who, interestingly enough, Devontae Walker, probably one of the more notable wide receivers that did not get drafted.
Who I think the Senior Bowl actually hurt his.
Hurt a
stock.
lot.
Oh,
way.
1,000,000%.
He was
I mean,
day 2 pick before that for
you,
sure.
you show up and he can't catch. Like,
Not
what are
good.
we? I mean, yeah, we've touched on it. Able to find green grass, able to get open, able to be in the right place, right time. But if you can't catch the ball at the right time, that's a pretty big problem.
Not going to draft the next MVS in day 2.
No, hopefully not. Jacob Cowing.
Jacob Cowing.
I don't think had much day 2 consideration, but a player I like a good bit.
Sleeper.
Same.
For a sleeper wise,
Some
Taj
other-
Washington,
Not
not
say Taj, Malik Washington, both kind of in similar
Malik
vein.
Washington. I think definitely had a chance to go day 2. I think that 100% was in the books. Jacob Cowing, Taj Washington, more day 3 sleepers. I mean, that's kind of it. The big
Brendan
tight end,
Rice.
Brendan Rice, Javon Baker.
Rice, sure, those guys. Maybe had day 2, but getting some tight ends to wrap it up. Tavion Sanders.
That was the one that surprised me.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, and I think this maybe comes down to maybe there's some size issues. Being that kind of almost a tweener build. like a Jaheim Bell, but I think he's significantly better. And I think he's bigger too. But, maybe there's too much of that where he's not as elite at some things as others.
I think for Sanders, through the last 2 years, everyone talked about Sanders as a tight end 2 in this class. We talked about his elite athleticism. Sure. And when he got to the combine, he did not test as well as a lot of us thought. He didn't test badly.
It's just not elite.
It was just average, which is fine. I think he can still be productive at the NFL level. But if he's not that elite athleticism that many of us thought he had when he was in college, then that just brings him down a tier. I was still surprised that he didn't go in day 2. I thought he still has enough talent for that. He has a good knack for finding open space, and he's good after the catch. But at the end of the day, if he's not an elite tester, and we saw Ben Sinnott, who was an elite tester, go day 2, that seems to be, there's a lot of correlation between athletic testing for tight ends and overall production in the NFL. As much as I love Jatavion Sanders, when he had that testing, it made it a lot easier for me to put Ben Sinnott as my tight end 2. And I think most of us were at that point by the combine anyway. So
he's no Tip Ryman in terms of testing.
Tip Ryman was pretty athletic for what it's worth, but
there's some potential there, I guess. Any other tight ends we want to mention before we get out of here?
I think there was some hype on Theo Johnson for sure.
Very athletic.
Sleeper, I think, to watch for in day 3's Eric All.
Yep.
Jared Wiley as well.
Jared Wiley.
Eric All more than Jared Wiley.
I've heard a lot of NFL hype around Jared Wiley. He's above Jatavion Sanders from Mel Kiper. There's a lot of people that expected actually Jared Wiley to maybe be a day 2 pick. So I think Jared Wiley a good call. Eric All, I think the only reason he's dropped into day 3 is because of the medicals.
Yeah.
When he's been on the field, he's been incredible. But
I will say in terms of route running being open, but at Iowa, so much of his film is just littered with quarterbacks missing it.
No way.
It's rough out there, but and then there is some drops, I think, issues with him as well. But another guy who can find the right spot, but completing the catch. There are some amazing catches on his film, but it's kind of that head scratcher. Like, how do you make this one? But this hits you square in the palms, and it's just like, well, nah, I can't catch that one. But that'd probably be my sleeper for day 2 or 3. Too many days. Too many days to keep track of.
Many days.
Until the NFL makes it 7 days and every round gets its own day.
Awesome.
Take a whole week off from work.
But I think that's about it. As Mike mentioned before, check all the description for all the details how to support the brand, the channel.
Yep.
We've discussed it as well. The Discord, hop in there. Patreon.com/Rewind. Free week for the $1 and $5 tiers. We'll be back tomorrow for sure. Anything else to add before we wrap up?
We're starting a new tier, $50 tier. Zach will come to your house and cuddle with you. So we're excited for that one. Zach, are we good on that?
Whatever for the brand.
Company man.
Company man. I love it.
Warrior.
No, that's it. Just get in there. Everything's in the description of this video. Pick up a sweatshirt. This one's old. That's why it's so faded, because I've washed it hundreds of times. Yes, and thank you to everyone that's already supported.
Yeah, let's do some roll calls, some shout outs here. Sean for producing.
Yep.
Our Discord moderators and hosting for us today to be able to reside here for the weekend. Discord moderators, our Discordians out there as well, supporting us, all the time. Subscribers, everybody supporting today with super chats and whatnot.
Really appreciate you guys.
Really got to shout out Waffle Houser today too. Thank you.
Keeping the lights on.
Yeah, for sure.
Sean might run out of power or water. Who knows?
But we do really appreciate all of you guys watching and subscribing. You guys make it possible for us to be here all together and talking football. And there's nothing else we would rather be doing this weekend. We're so happy to be here talking to you guys and sharing our thoughts. And we're excited for day 3. It's starting in 10 minutes. So, Mike, you want to get us out of here?
All right. Thank you for hanging out with us. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Till then, everybody, thanks for watching. For Nate, Bob, Zach, I'm your host, Michael Bauer. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Dynasty Rewind. Please make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. And as always, be kind. Please rewind.